as the author of this letter. And this too has been a conclusion which is so firm that many conservative scholars accept it. For example, William Barclay in the Daily Bible Commentary, and also Richard Bauckham in his commentary on 2 Peter. What about 1 Peter? 1 Peter is disputed. Some scholars think he wrote it, some scholars think he did not write it. And many important scholars, of course, do say that Peter did not write that one as well. Because this is disputed, I will submit tonight that we cannot use this as firm documentary evidence, and we need to look for other evidence that will show that Peter and the other disciples of Jesus actually considered Jesus to be God, or that he was divine. My fourth reason is that Paul was in conflict with the original disciples of Jesus on questions of law and monotheism. We talked about law last night. I'll talk about monotheism tonight. Remember that Paul, in his second letter to the Corinthians, in chapter 11, verse number 4, he was railing against people who were coming into his territory, into his churches, and preaching another Jesus. Now, who were these other people? As James Dunn has shown in his book, Jesus the Evidence, these other people are actually the other disciples and close followers of the disciples of Jesus. There are people like Peter, James, and John. And on one occasion, Paul actually mentions their names. And he says that, I don't care what they are, pillars of the church, it doesn't matter, God doesn't show any partiality. Well, that sounds like a nice statement, God doesn't show any partiality. But at the same time, Peter, James, and John and other disciples of Jesus have credentials to their name. It is mentioned in Matthew's Gospel that Peter was going to be the rock on which God will build the church. Or Jesus will build the church, however you like it. This may not be an authentic saying of Jesus, but nevertheless, it is there in the Gospels. And it is recognized that Peter was one of the leaders of the Jerusalem church, the mother church. So when Peter clashed with Paul, and Paul represents himself as the winner, and the church follows Paul, then we have to ask, are we getting it straight from the disciples of Jesus? Are we getting a history that is written by the winners who were not the original disciples of Jesus? My fifth reason for thinking that the original disciples did not consider Jesus to be God is that Jesus himself taught that he was not God. Remember the passage that James quoted where Jesus says, why do you ask me, why do you call me good? No one is good but God alone. And James says, oh, Muslims didn't get it. But actually his reasoning is circular because he is assuming that Jesus is claiming to be God. You can't assume the very thing that you set out to prove. James has to prove that Jesus claimed to be God, and that the disciples then took this claim and made it their own and believed that Jesus was God. You cannot assume the very thing which you are setting out to prove. This is called circular reasoning. So I found that James is not historical in his thinking, and that he didn't try to reach back to the earliest historical records about the disciples. Second, that he's using circular reasoning. And third, that he's not precise in his thinking, in that his presentation showed no clarity about what the original disciples of Jesus actually believed. I have 2 minutes left, but my presentation is done. I could use the 2 minutes to start rebutting some of the points that James raised, but I'll leave that for later on, and I'll come back and afterwards. Thank you very much.